Welcome back to Mindshift with Luca and Jonty. Today we're going to be talking about, our experience at university and maybe just giving a few tips on to students and what we think, if we could go back to uni, how would we do it differently, or how would we approach it a little bit differently? The uni years, Luca, we can say, some of the best years. Such a great experience going to uni and just growing, and the social aspect to it as well. It's a fun time in your life,
No,
but also a
definitely,
time that you definitely can't waste that time. I think that's what you don't realize is when you start working, your time is you have far less time than you did when you were in uni. I think if I had to go back and do it again, I'd say look at all that free time I had that
no,
I
exactly.
potentially
It's
could have
crazy.
utilized a little bit better.
It's crazy. I mean, university was wild. It was a wild time, and it's crazy to think that was like 5 years of our lives that's come and gone, and we've been through all of that. There's a ton of growth, and I know like there was a ton of growth that happened, and I think a lot of now, a lot of opinions are moving towards the fact that maybe university and school is pointless and this and that. Elements, I will definitely say that elements are, some things need to be improved upon, and some things are maybe a bit useless. But others, I think this is what we're maybe going to unpack in this conversation. It's like what was useful, what was useless. What would we do differently maybe with the time we had.
I think an interesting time. For me, if I look back on uni, and I used to think, especially in first, second, third year, I was like, I always used to have such a bad mindset towards. I was like, this is such a waste of time, and
exactly,
I had such a negative mindset towards it. But then when I started hitting fourth and fifth year, when we basically brought all of the knowledge we had learned in undergrad, and we started bringing it into and it started having this whole holistic picture, and we started understanding the little importance, stats like stats 1000, and small courses like that actually, when you start getting into the more real life case studies that you do in fourth and fifth year, you start realizing like those are actually so important to the foundations of what we're doing now. And I think it just, those first few years, it like from going from school to uni, the shift and like your mind just like gets broadened. And I think the way you approach problems and how you deal with life and your outlook on life changes a lot. And I think looking back, I think uni is actually like such an important part of your life, and my favorite quotes, I think it's from Nelson Mandela, is like, education is the most important weapon you can use to change the world, or something along those lines.
And no, I know it.
It's so true. Like education is so powerful, and it's the best investment that you're going to get into. And I know, like, coming up in today's society, there are a lot of people who are saying, like maybe uni isn't as important. And I think, well, there might be some merit to some professions. I think what uni does is it gives you that broader mindset and that ability to think critically, which I think is something that's so important in moving into the working world today.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I definitely do agree with you 100%. I'd like, listen, challenges aplenty that we had at university. For people who maybe aren't familiar with what's happened at the University of Cape Town over the past 5 years, there was never a year where there was something unpredictable,
something that didn't interrupt us.
Something that didn't interrupt. So I think we became very adaptable, used to challenges, used to things not being linear, which is in itself very valuable. But I think also, it's a lot about how you, building on what you're saying, Jonty, it's a lot about how you approach things. And what I agree with you completely when those small pieces of the puzzle start to fit in holistically, and you look back and you say, oh, okay, that's why I did that economics course back in first year, that I thought it was a joke. That's when it becomes worth it. But I also think it's your approach. And it's so easy to slip into a mindset of just not caring and, thinking that everything's pointless. Whereas you can approach university with such a different perspective, take what's actually valuable and push away the rest. Because I'll be the first person to tell you that there definitely are elements that I found are useless. I can't remember the exact detail, but there's a lot of stuff that's not really so relevant right now. But I would say more things that are useful from a non-academic perspective, which I think which will be cool for us to dive into.
Well, I think, I'm actually going to challenge you on that point. You're saying that you think, it was useless. And I'm going to say, actually, that at the time you might have thought it's useless, but it all adds to that bigger picture, and like how it's contributing to you as a whole and giving you a certain way of approaching different problems. Like, for example, the course in first year that everyone doesn't like, what's it called again? It's that one course we do. It's kind of like a more got a philosophical.
What was it? Evidence-based management, EBM.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
EBM. And it's a rolling joke at UCT, and everyone knows people, they all joke about the course. But if you actually think about some of the things we learned in that course about, a lot of philosophical things, and, also it spoke about, fallacies and, the like critical thinking and all these kind of topics that at the time you might say, oh, it's such a waste. But then, it actually expands the way you think and the way you approach life. And I think, that's the point I want to actually challenge you on, is that I think, even the courses that you think might be useless and that you don't think are adding value in some way. And I think that's the awesome thing about uni, is that if you can just change your mindset. And I think, that's what I did in uni, is that I approached it with even the courses that I thought, would be a waste of my ability. And I think that's, ended up like making my university experience so much more valuable, because not only does it like push me to really engage with the content, which I think is so important, and I think to students who are, I would actually challenge them to actually go and push themselves to actually really like give it the best of their ability and actually engage with the content. Because, it's often, if you're not giving it your best and you're not like trying to actually engage with the subject, then it actually will be useless, because then you're not actually going to get the value that they want you to get out of it. And I think, that's what if I had to give one tip to students, that's what I'd say, is like, even the courses you don't think, and the courses that you don't like or you don't think are important, make sure you actually like trying to give it like a go, because you'll be surprised that, when you come out and you start working in the real world, and you'll think back, oh, that one course on leadership, or I know we did that course on people management.
Yeah, exactly. Jonty, I think I need to clarify exactly what my point was saying. And I think, listen, I definitely do agree with you 100%. And I think my core point is the approach. Is the approach you take. I was definitely one who shrugged off a lot of those courses like people management and stuff. And because my mindset was very different compared what it is now. Compared, say, to what it is now, and say even a year's difference. We did the course on strategic thinking, which I can say that a lot of people took it as a joke, and they were like, why do we have to do all this practical stuff? It's not giving me any benefit. But, I'm the first person to rave about that course and say how good it was, how, it was my favorite course at university. And purely because I actually dove into it, and I said, I'm going to give this 100%. And I knew that what the relevance was. But whereas in first year, maybe you don't know what the relevance of EBM or people management is going to be. And so you take it as a bit of a joke. So I think my fundamental issue, my fundamental thing that I agree with you is about the approach, and maybe people don't take the right approach to things. But, what I was trying to get across is that some content and some courses, I maybe don't think, this is the thing you challenged me on, is that I think that some courses are maybe a bit outdated, and for example, let me just elaborate in the sense of like, say the marketing course that we did, the one marketing course we did do. You're telling me that we came out of the marketing, one marketing course, and it's the 21st century right now. It was 2016. and you're telling me they didn't teach us how to run a Facebook ad, or like how to build a Facebook campaign, or like didn't teach us about social media marketing, what are the nuances, psychology behind. So all of that stuff that I've learned now after that course, like in the other content I've consumed, that was my issue, I think. And that was something that I can't remember one thing from that course. And maybe it was, I'll be the first to admit that it was maybe elements of my attitude towards the course. I took it as a bit of a joke, but I don't really remember content. And correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong if there was content.
I actually do want to correct you there.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm playing bad cop with you.
No, listen, don't. Like,
for me, marketing was actually, I really enjoyed marketing. It was actually one of my more memorable courses. I can actually think back to it. You know, there was a lot of good points that I learned from it. You know, we actually analyzed, I can't remember all the technical terms, but it spoke a lot about, you know, there were good things about understanding your customer, you know, who's your target market, how do you like identify that. It also spoke on, you know, there were case studies on certain companies, like I think it was the one on the video, what do you even call the videos we used to watch in the olden days, the little like brick
DVDs.
what are they called?
Video cassettes. The video cassettes.
And
the cassettes, bro.
Exactly. And they spoke about, I remember, that's what I remember from marketing, one of the lectures on how, in the case studies of how if you're not willing to adapt and understand your customer, that you can actually fall out of sync and your business can go under. And that's what did happen to a lot of companies.
Yes, like with Blockbuster.
There were other really cool case studies we did in marketing. Yeah, and we did a lot of cool courses. We did a case study on the South African market, and I don't know if you remember, we did like research into the survivor market and the middle class
I remember that.
And the upper class. And there was a whole big case study that our final exam was on. And I think, you know, that's the thing is like, if you could have just, you know, done the minimum, the bare minimum and got behind that course and you could have passed. But if you like really gave it your all, like I think there was a lot of value that actually could be used in the real world. And it's, you know, like obviously it's a couple of years ago and we don't remember all the like details and the technicals. But I think it's that small exposure to certain topics that actually, you know, even just challenge the way you think. And I think that's what's really awesome about uni. And I think that's why I would say to like students now, don't take it for granted. Like there are so many people in South Africa who would die to be in your position, like, you know, be studying at a university. And you don't want to be someone who's going to uni and just being like, oh, you know, this is a drag. Like, I just want to get by on the bare minimum. But this is just my opinion. Like, obviously,
of course. Look,
obviously, like everyone has their different approach. And I mean, there's some people who would say that, you know, uni is a waste of time, like, and that have become very successful. And so what I'm saying is, you know, everyone has their own approach. And their own perspective and their own ideas of things. And I think like there's always two sides to the story. So at the same time, you know, some people don't learn much at uni and then, you know, like, or they'll say that, you know, you go into the working world and it hasn't actually taught you a lot of practicalities in the working world. But I think, yeah, it's an interesting debate. And I think that's why we decided to choose this as a topic, because
it is. And listen, fair enough. But like, you know, I think, and it comes back to my point, is it? I'm even like falling part of my own point is that like my approach to that marketing course was not good, obviously, because I didn't take as much out of it as I could have. And I've educated myself more on marketing now in the later years, which is actually quite an interesting point, because which I want to bring up is that I've learned more about marketing now when I've become more passionate and actually genuinely more interested in it. Whereas in the past I wasn't. So, and which is also interesting, like, you know, with economics, for example, I wouldn't have said, you know, especially in first and second year, I wasn't like, you know, head over heels for the ecos content we were doing. But for example, if I had known how much economics would help me in understanding all of those laws and all of those principles, in understanding investing and, you know, and finance, which I'm so passionate about today, is I think I definitely would have put more into it. And so like the whole point of this conversation is going back I would have definitely put more effort in, because it would be so relevant in what I'm doing today, which is investing in, managing my own money and trying to understand markets now. You know what I mean? So
yeah, 100%. And what I want to actually add on that point is that maybe that's where unis are falling short, especially in first, second year, when you're just doing a lot of the theory and not enough, like, linking it to the real world and
exactly.
making it really practical. And I think, that's what for me made things a little bit more exciting, is that, I'd maybe spend that little bit of extra time to go and look, like, how can this apply in the real world? And I think, if we look at some of the courses we did later on in uni, like BAG, which was, can't remember what it stands for, but basically in that course, we did a lot of case studies and we did a lot of research into real topics that basically gets you really excited about the theory that you have learned. And that's a really important point.
So business analysis and governance, just by the way.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. No, but like, listen, I 100% agree with you. And now, we're not challenging each other now. We're definitely in agreement. Is that the fact is that, as soon as you introduce practicality, which I found just sparks the mind and sparks the interest, like, and that's how you learn. And I think that's why you have maybe taken more out from those earlier courses, because you actually went out after university, after the lectures, and you actually went and solidified that knowledge, whereas like I didn't, so I think, and in the later courses like BAG, business analysis and governance, and strategic thinking, which was the course on entrepreneurship, where I actually put more of an effort into it, and I actually cared more, and I actually applied it to the real world, my learning like shot up, and I've taken so much more out of those courses.
Exactly, because those courses were way more practical, which made them so much more interesting, like cool case studies, and linking it to the real life. Because I think a lot of students think, all this theory is nonsense, because how does it apply to the real world?
Exactly.
But what's really cool is when you actually see that theory coming into play in the real world.
Yeah,
and I suppose it does depend on your industry and everything.
Yeah, when it finally does click, when it finally does click, it's like the most amazing feeling. It's so cool.
Exactly. And I think what's so cool is when you, like now with starting, being involved in Conservice and everything, is like when a framework you learned in like Strat, you actually use in like assessing your business or your customers, and setting up a framework and a strategy for the business. And that's what's so cool.
Exactly, which is crazy. It was actually my first ever interaction with Conservice, the first sort of help the first sort of value that I added into that business was working with my co-founders on the business model canvas, which was that framework that we learned in strategic thinking, which is something I'll use forever. It's basically a 7-block, for everyone who doesn't know, it's a 7-block framework where you basically break down every single aspect of your business, from customer relationships to supplier relationships, to your distribution channels, to your marketing platforms, to your value proposition. There's 7. So roughly that's basically what it is. But I mean, something like that, it literally hits home the point of what Jonty and I are saying, is that something that you can apply so easily to real life will stick with you forever. So I guess then, Jonty, is a key learning and a key tip then to come from this is to say to people, try and, if you are passionate about something, try and apply what you're learning at university to that real life thing that you actually are interested in. Yeah.
The other point I really wanted to raise is what I said at the beginning, is how once you start working, your time, it's not your own. You lose a lot of free time. And I think looking back on university, you don't want to take that free time for granted. Like, you want to be using that time effectively. And the point I want to say is it's important to find the balance. So you don't want to now go and sacrifice, because uni is a time to have fun and socialize and meet people. And like those are all very important things. But you also don't want to, look back and be like, I wish I'd like learned programming, or I wish I'd, use that free time to strategize a new like business ideas, or start a new business, or, you want to be making sure you're using that time effectively, because the minute you leave uni, you suddenly have more responsibility and less time, and it's only going to get more and more like, or tougher to have free time the older you get, you know. And if you want to like start a family, and like
No,
you're going to get more responsibilities as you get older. And so like that's the one thing I'd say to students now is, yes, of course, like, you know, it's a great time to have fun and to socialize. Don't like take for granted the extra time you have, you know. And like, you don't want to look back when you start working and be like, yo, I wish I'd done like, you know, a bit of programming or learned some of this, you know, back then. Because, you know, it's a really like great time to get started on that kind of stuff.
No, exactly, Jonty. I can't agree with you more, and I'm glad we're jumping into this point now, because I think my biggest takeaway and reflection of university is, if I were to go back, I would 100% dive more into, you know, starting a business, strategizing, that sort of thing, dipping my toes into more of the startup ecosystem that university has. I mean, there's a massive ecosystem where, you know, there's like departments who are maybe helping with, you know, fund small businesses, and fellow entrepreneurs who are at university who you can go and network with and collaborate with and do so many different things with. And there's societies as well who are, you know, there was an entrepreneurship society at the University of Cape Town.
Get involved.
Yeah, I mean, get involved. Like, I would say to younger Luca, like, literally, what are you doing the whole time? Like, what are you doing with your day? Go and like network with people and start a business. And, you know, even if it's like, even if it's standing on the main plaza at UCT and selling lemonade or like whatever, like literally it can be the most odd thing, but try and do stuff and like do different things and use your time. And yeah, because like you say,
Don't be afraid. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. I think that's something that I was pretty in second and third year. I started doing a little bit of that, which was so cool. And I wish like I'd even started earlier, you know, signing up to certain societies.
Exactly.
Just, you know, meeting, like not being afraid to just meet new people. I think my biggest regret from university is that I didn't, maybe what I would say is like within the class that we had, we can both agree, maybe I think we both did this, which we fell short on a little bit, is that we stayed within our like social circle group, and we didn't network as much as we could have. I think for me, that's one of my biggest regrets, is like you sitting in a class with some of the brightest minds in the future, and like you don't want to be missing that opportunity of making a really cool connection. And like we said on our last episode, you never know like what connection or, you know, which person could help you with your business or with a job or whatever. So, you know, you want to be utilizing that. And I wish I'd like use that time more effectively, like in lectures, just sat next to a new person like every day. And some lecturers even said like do that.
Exactly. I mean, it's so true. And I mean, you know, even for us, hey, Jonty, like we were in the commerce faculty, right? Which is obviously made up of, you know, marketing and finance and all of those different areas within commerce. But I even felt like you know, and that's a big regret of mine as well, is that I felt like I was so bad to that extent where I just stuck into the finance and accounting people that I was doing main classes with. Like I didn't even feel like I diversified much into the marketing faculty or the marketing part of the commerce faculty, you know, like, you know, I only started doing networking more and diversifying my connections towards the later stages of university, which is a big regret. You know, I mean, there's some people who are working at like Google now, and you know, who we knew and stuff. You know,
I know, and
crazy connections to have.
That's the point I just want to make, is like, don't be like network. Go sit next to a new person in a lecture every day. And the other point you raised, which is super cool, is from other like backgrounds, like marketing or whatever. And it makes me think of, you know, my sister. So my sister did business, science, finance with accounting like us, but then she didn't go on to do PGDA, but she worked at a financial services firm for a year. And then she actually decided, hey, I want to change my degree completely, or change my life plan completely. And she went back to university and studied graphic design and visual communications. And the point that she made, which got me thinking, is that she's now going in there with a business background, like a understanding of, you know, that kind of language. And she's meeting people who are purely creatives, and they think and they approach things in such a different manner to how we do. And, you know, like just being exposed to people like that and seeing how they approach problems, you know, is like super valuable. Because I mean, we all like think in a certain way because we come from finance and accounting. I know, like, I don't want to box us all into like not thinking laterally, or we don't think flexibly.
Well,
it
comes pretty close, let's be honest. Let's be honest.
But it's, yeah, if you see how like these creatives approach problems and how they think about things, it's so different. And it's so important, I think, to expose yourself to people who think differently to you. Because, like, you know, like we learned, you know, in uni, you know, boards of companies need to have a diverse set of backgrounds, because, you know, it's important to have different thoughts or different people who think about problems in different ways. And I think,
exactly,
you know, that's such a cool point you bring up. You know, you're going to the marketing class or meeting people from other backgrounds, and not just sticking within, you know, your circle of friends.
Yeah, not just sticking within your circle, you know, even going further than your own faculty. Like, I mean, the you know, the good friend of mine, the other Luca that I spoke about in the last episode, who we started the Conservice jewelry company with, he studied engineering. So, you know, that obviously when I started talking with him more closely and becoming closer to him, I got to interact with his whole circle of engineering friends. And that was quite cool for me, because then I felt like I was actually putting myself out there a bit more. And, you know, he has a completely different perspective. He's completely creative. He has like a completely different way of problem solving, you know, different attitude towards problem solving and a different way of thinking. And since I've become such good friends with him, we still talk now, you know, after university, and he's got, I love picking his brain because he's got such a different perspective on things and such cool, valuable points to add. And I think it just drives home the point that we're saying is, like, talk to different people, because people think differently and have different perspectives, and you can learn so much from other people. And, you know, I'd give anything to start a business at university again. Like, I think that's the one biggest thing I regret, because there's such a friendly ecosystem. You know, there's connections. Lecturers in certain, you know, divisions of the university can give you access to funding. There's all those competitions, you know, Jonty, there's all those competitions that they run throughout the year. You know, pitch your business idea to win however many thousands of rands for funding, or so many of those things, and so many opportunities to learn and connect with people and grow that I just didn't use.
Yeah.
That's
get involved.
That's something I really feel. That's something I really feel bummed about. So if you are anyone like me, if you are any sort of person like me who shares an inkling of passion for business right now, and you are sitting in first or second or third year, and you have 2 more years at university left, literally try and do this stuff. Use this period now when you're not at university to plan your business, and as soon as you get there, get back. Like, literally just smash it. Like, you have to, you know, like, you have to do that.
100%.
Hey everyone, before you go, I just wanted to jump in here and say, on behalf of Jonty and myself, thank you so much for watching that episode. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed that episode of Mindshift, check out some of our others. They should be around here somewhere on the screen. Also, subscribe to the channel and give this video a like for the YouTube algorithm. If you didn't like it somehow, leave me a comment down below telling me why, and I will do my utmost to make sure you enjoy it the next time. Till the next Mindshift, bye for now.